colleagues. As I was saying previously at the roundtable before, TASS is an international information agency. That is represented internationally. We are an agency that gets across the stance of the Russian Federation to the rest of the world, which is set out in our charter, and it's our mission for 101 years of our existence. We are accredited at main international platforms, and no one has excluded us from the OCE, the UN, and other important platforms. I would like to tell you about what we are, where and how we work, and this is my first slide about the information environment where TASS works. Here it's mostly about Russia. Previous speakers would often say that few people know about Russia and what happens there. So I'm going to talk to you about that. The main platforms: ВКонтакте, Одноклассники, Classmates, where Russian bloggers and media are primarily based. As per the latest data from Brand Analytics company that looks into the social media. So in March, these platforms published almost 2 billion news messages by 3 million authors. So we need to understand that the population of the Russian Federation is 140 million. So basically means that quite a few people act as authors. So social media include Telegram and YouTube with 24 million authors publishing 1.1 billion messages. So basically it means that every month billions of messages are generated, meaning thousands of messages every second. And this is only in the Russian segment, let alone an international one. And this would be impossible without modern technology, neural networks, and the like. So, and the next thing is how an ordinary person can navigate their way among those messages. We, as mass media, work with people who publish this or that information. The big question is where this information from and how credible it is. Talking about the Russian segment, all information agencies in Russia publish about 4,000 news messages by day, making it 120,000 news messages, reflecting the vision of the world in the Russian Federation. The rest is reposting or alterations of this information, and TASS is expected to react to this. So we have our own monitoring department that's looking at what's happening in the world. Luckily, everyone is reposting information. We have our own algorithm for AI that had been in use since before neural networks in TASS, because obviously without any new technology helping to process text, no news information agency can survive in the world. So the technology has been available for a while. Some people speak about it publicly, some do not speak about it. So, but we collect we collect stories, and most of the messages are about reposting the stories. We see where this news message comes from. We look at its credibility, assess whether the public have demand for it. So we start then circulate and highlight this message, because the main thing about fakes is when the government keeps silent about this or that information. We, as a state media, need to convey the agenda that our government pursues, and the information that it believes credible. So there is a bit of stats here. How many users make use of neural networks for generating images, select topics? We can see that it's growing exponentially. One of the main fakes currently is that any person can. So what happens is that any person can make their own Telegram channel and then collect millions of subscribers. Obviously, this is impossible. For you to become a blogger with millions of subscribers, you need to be promoted. You need to be pitched properly. So this is a whole media promotion plan. And these are the modern neural networks that allow to identify these. When colleagues talk about using GPT for writing text, it may seem that, well, you generated that and then you publish it, and no one will notice that. Yet, this is the whole point of neural networks. They are created for getting feedback from the user. Everyone is told that you can generate lots of subscribers, millions of them, and you'll raise lots of money through advertising budgets, and you won't have to stir a finger. So all you need to do is use the neural networks. This is not the case in real life, but neural networks train on this. And globally, all information is monitored and collected. All info is monitored, and all owners of major networks are affiliated with search engines and see who published what, how society reacted to that. Hence, the neural networks get adjusted to the parameters that are desirable. Let me repeat that we don't know who wants to use neural networks and how. Russia obviously has its own neural networks, Yandex, Sber. So this is all about the Russian segment. In terms of the international segment, this is a huge investment. Creating a neural network requires billions and billions of dollars. Apart from deploying the software, you need to train the neural network. And here's the key thing, how it can be trained and using what material. There are trainers that upload knowledge into that. And depending on the input data, you will get appropriate results. So it's very similar to how people learn. Depending on what reference books people use, they'll respond to your questions in this or that manner. And it's not unlike how neural networks work. So if a person reads one or couple of books, they try to use this experience to filter false and true information. So if neural networks have contradicting information, it's unclear how it's going to react. So we don't know what kind of messages it will distribute. When we say that neural networks are becoming very helpful in our everyday life, it's true. There are lots of experiments, lots of cases when neural networks help people start their businesses and accelerate what they would have spent years to acquire. But we're becoming dependent on them, like we are now dependent on our mobile phones. So sometimes when people do not return calls, everyone panics. And a similar thing is happening to neural networks. Users are getting quickly used to those, and it would be very hard for them to make do without neural networks, which makes life of information agencies more difficult. Why people need to read the news if they can ask the neural networks what's happened today? And neural networks respond to simple questions, and here we can see a potential for creating personalized news. So a user can ask for the news to be collected from all over the world to suit their particular interests. And this would be up to the artificial intelligence to decide what can be of interest to this person and what cannot. Here we try to keep abreast, to keep up. We're trying to keep up here and understand how we can get messages across to our users. We're present at all possible platforms, both domestically and internally, even those that are not allowed globally. And we convey the stance that we stick to. We have our own knowledge and news message base. We have papers with TASS news. We have our own news messages being collected since 1987. So we use those to design our own networks, to search for credible information and create our own news content. We have our own wiki for storing the information, as our colleague from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs pointed out rightly. Some news tend to disappear, to get masked, once the topic becomes irrelevant or it's beneficial. These news tends to get covered up. So, and we are collecting the info to understand what happens 10 years ago and several decades ago, and our correspondents are making an active use of it while working on their materials. So there are some quick postings. So we're talking several dozens of seconds between writing up a text and hitting the news feed. So these are pieces of news that are credible and verified. Words of the president, results of the negotiations. As any information agency, we are trying to be proactive and stay ahead of the situation. We're trying to see what our colleagues going to write about. When we realize that our colleagues launch a new informational warfare to support this or that agenda, especially when there are major events or fora, and we see certain information being disseminated in the hope of it being reposted. When we look at major audiences, major coverage, info gets reposted often. We understand that, and we are ready to publish the right info, the right news at the appropriate time for people to be able to recheck it. Can we go back one slide, please? What does TASS do to combat fakes? As I said, since 1983, we have a database of verified news messages. And we are sure that these pieces of news are credible. We know what really happened. In 2009, we started using artificial intelligence. So it had to do with machine learning's rules, creation of news feeds. We generate news feeds in 6 languages that we share with international information agencies. These news feeds are generated automatically because obviously you can't handle manually 3,000 news messages every day. So this is handled by machines, looking at who may be interested in which speakers and which topics. All this is processed automatically. Technology is used to identify which photos are going to be the best to go with. So we recently acquired 65 million photos. We are now testing image processing technology, embedding them into stories. So our main task here is to create a sort of network, neural network for information agencies that can be shared with everyone who is friendly to us and who would like to obtain credible information. Because lots of media, including some of the Russian ones, are sensationalists. They first publish the news and then they'll try to look into what kind of news is that, and they just delete it, saying, sorry, that was fake news. We apologize to our readers and viewers, yet the number of views generated. So, and some people obviously who read that cannot unsee that. These people will never know the credible information. They may not go to the original information. Our friendly search engines will not debunk the fakes, but certain news are promoted to the top, and it's quite hard for us to be on the battlefield because forces are not equal. We have a lot stacked against us, and we need to monitor and control the deployment of information, making sure it's credible. And despite all of this, when important events take place in Russia, we see that all users come to our site. For example, all users checked on the beginning of the special military operation, or when a person of note and renown dies, they check first and foremost at our site whether it's true or not. So, and the most important thing that needs to be preserved is the criticality of thinking of users. With the artificial intelligence, there is a trend of less critical thinking of people and search for credible information.